In one of my shorts, I revealed that I live in the pampas, but not literally. I was referring to the German phrase in der Pampa, which describes a thinly populated rural area. I might call it the middle of nowhere. If you're American, you might call it the boondocks. But I got a lot of interesting comments on that short, so I felt that this was a topic that deserved a long-form video. And incidentally, several of your comments pointed out that whereas in English the plural form pampas is usual, in German it's generally the singular form pampa. So let's talk about German expressions that describe places that are far away or unpopulated or both. And in this video I shall be saying the expressions in German and putting the translations up on screen like this. Wir sind hier mitten in der Pampa. I don't know why, it just feels like the right thing to do. In my original short, I also mentioned Timbuktu, as in, geh doch nach Timbuktu. This is a famous, almost mythical place in present-day Mali, but in the days before cars and airplanes, it was almost impossible to get to from Europe. European explorers had consistently failed in their attempts to find Timbuktu until in the 1820s the French explorer René Caillet, disguised as an Arab, finally made it. And so in many European languages, German included, Timbuktu came to mean a faraway place that you might not find even if you looked for it. But there are at least two other towns used to describe faraway places, and the curious thing is that they are both in Germany. One of these is Buxtehude, which is close to Hamburg, and it may not surprise you to learn that this is usually used in southern Germany to describe a fairy tale place somewhere in the countryside. In fact, for some Germans, the town is so closely associated with expressions like Geh doch nach Buxtehude, wo der Pfeffer wächst, or Geh in die Quarkmühle nach Buxtehude, that they are genuinely surprised to discover that the town really does exist. Quark, by the way, is a type of very mild, very soft cheese, so the idea of a quark mill is clearly nonsense. It's thought that this expression has something to do with the fairy tale of the hare and the hedgehog who have a race near Buxtehude. But as nearly always with this kind of thing, nobody's really certain. Even more mysterious is Meppen, which is close to the Dutch border. Now, as far as I can tell, this is usually used to mean some sort of extreme limit, as in the phrase, das stinkt bis nach Meppen. But one person who commented on my short mentioned bis nach Meppen und zurück to describe a very long distance to travel. The mysterious thing about this one is that even people local to the area use it, so my guess is that it has more to do with the fact that it's near the border, which makes sense of the idea of it being a limiting factor. In parts of Bavaria, Hintertupfing is a fictional village in the middle of the countryside, somewhere far away from civilization. In other parts of southern Germany, the same place is called Hintertupfingen, and there are other variants as well. It basically just sounds like a typical name for a small village. But returning to Buxtehude very briefly, I mentioned that it is sometimes connected with pepper. In fact, the expression dort wo der Pfeffer wächst can stand alone to mean an exotic and faraway place, especially one that dark-skinned foreigners are supposed to come from. The explanation for that one is very simple. Centuries ago, pepper had to be imported from unimaginably huge distances, well, India, and so it was rare and expensive. Merchants had to travel for weeks to get it. Moving east, in der Walachia is a remote, unpopulated and barren region, the kind of place that you might want to banish somebody to. This refers to Walachia, a region that is now in Romania but was at one time just beyond the edge of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The phrase hinter den Karpaten refers to the same region. If you live in Berlin, you may be familiar with JVD, and not just in Berlin, but in some other cities in northern Germany and parts of the Rhineland. This stands for ganz weit draußen, which in these regions is the local dialect form for ganz weit draußen. This can refer to anywhere in the countryside, but it usually implies the countryside surrounding whichever city you are in. It's not necessarily far away, but it's certainly a very different world from the crowded city centre. If you want to talk about somewhere that is so rural that nothing ever happens, you can talk about a place, wo sich Fuchs und Hase gute Nacht sagen. Now, apparently this is because no human has ever witnessed such an event. Normally the fox would simply eat the hare. So, if it ever does happen, it must be in a place where there are no humans to witness it. Finally, if you really want to express just how you feel about the countryside, you can go for am Arsch der Welt, or as one or two of you suggested, am Arsch der Heide. This one really doesn't need any explanation. Of course, this is just a selection of the words and expressions available. Germany is a big country with a rich cultural history, so there are, I'm sure, hundreds of other expressions in various parts of the country, and many more in other countries besides. But that, after all, is what the comment section is for. What do you say where you live? Wir sind hier mitten in der Wir sind hier mitten in der Until in 1820, no, the 1820s, René Caillet, disguised as an Arab,